In a world that celebrates self-sufficiency and personal strength, the imagery of Psalm 17 feels almost countercultural. Here, King David, a mighty warrior and a powerful king, does not boast in his own accomplishments. Instead, he pleads with God, "Keep me as the apple of your eye, hide me in the shadow of your wings." This heartfelt cry reveals a spiritual truth. Our greatest strength is not found within ourselves, but in our humble reliance on God's protection. David begins this psalm with a prayer for vindication, not out of arrogance, but from a place of examined integrity. He invites God's scrutiny, declaring, "You have tried my heart, you have visited me by night, you have tested me, and you will find nothing." This is a life of sincere devotion where his feet have not slipped from God's paths. From this position of a clear conscience, he feels empowered to cry out for deliverance from his enemies, whom he describes as violent, pitiless men whose portion is in this life. This contrast is the heart of the psalm's application. David's adversaries were entirely consumed with earthly gain, accumulating wealth at the expense of others. Their focus was horizontal, limited to the temporary world they could see and control. David's focus, however, was vertical. He looked beyond his immediate circumstances to a future hope, concluding, "As for me, I shall behold your face in righteousness. When I awake, I shall be satisfied with your likeness." While his enemies were consumed with the now, David was sustained by the promise of resurrection, the hope of awakening in God's presence and being fully satisfied in him. David contrasts his hope with that of his adversaries, who are consumed with their portion in this life. His ultimate longing is not for earthly victory, but for a heavenly one. "As for me, I will see your face in righteousness. I shall be satisfied when I awake in your likeness." This verse points powerfully to the hope of the resurrection and the believer's ultimate destiny in Christ. The Apostle Paul echoes this glorious truth, explaining that God predestined believers to be conformed to the image of his Son. It is deeply significant that the author of this prayer is the same man who felled Goliath and led armies to victory. If anyone had reason to trust in their own strength, it was David. Yet, he consistently credited God for his victories, understanding that his own power was merely an extension of the Lord's. He saw himself not as a self-sufficient lion, but as a helpless chick needing the shelter of the divine wings. The temptation to rely on our own strength is powerful. Yet, Psalm 17 calls us to a different posture. It invites us to trade the illusion of control for the security of God's refuge. In a world prowling with spiritual and physical dangers, we can follow David's example, live a life of integrity, fix our eyes on the eternal, and run daily to our true protector, finding our ultimate satisfaction not in the treasures of this world, but in the promise of beholding his face.